Everyone here? Everyone comfortable? Everyone want a drink? That's a yes. It's a London yes. Hey everyone. Thanks a lot for coming tonight. It's a lovely evening. It was wonderful downstairs, right? My name is Stephen Bell. I'm a journalist, or was, and still do a bit thereon. I'm here tonight with Jeffrey Young, the European and Middle East Area Regional Business Development and Marketing Manager for Jason Mark. Not only is he an avid G-Shock collector, he's kind of emblematic of the lifestyle, and he's a Renaissance man, modern Renaissance man. And over on the other side there, that is Andrew, runs a platform called Time Drops on YouTube, which is watches and lifestyle. I was watching it. He's got so many G-Shocks that he matches them with his outfit. All right, so that's a whole new paradigm in Casio. I want to say thanks first to Theo and Henry at Known Source. I've spoken to several people this week that spoke very highly of them. Yeah, the gossip is good. And so they founded their resale network only a couple of years ago, and look where they are already. Their intention is to elevate the resale market, and that is looking good so far, right? But the chaps knew to do that, they'd require collaboration, not only with reselling agents, but their audience too, who can return an item at any point, creating a circular system supporting sustainability. And we can see how well the strategy works, looking at the vintage pieces, matched with G-Shock downstairs from across the decade. Thank you guys. And this is your place, right? Judging by the studio upstairs, or not? Okay. So, tough talk. In 1981, Casio Electronics of Shibuya, Tokyo, inventors of the electronic calculator and digital watch, assembled an elite squad of engineers it dubbed Project Team Tough, intending to create a wristwatch that simply would not break. Led by Kikuo Ibe, is that right pronunciation, guys? I'm ever so sorry, Kikuo Ibe. Project Team Tough overcame many pitfalls over an intense 2-year period, working through over 200 prototypes. Imagine all the broken glass. Leading Mr. Ibe to declare later that if he could tell his early 80s self anything, it would be that toughness is embracing failure. By 1983, Project Team Tough had a digital watch that would not break or shatter if dropped. The D-Shock, thanks man, DW5000C delivered shock resistance delivered by a hollow case structure supporting the core module and a covering of urethane around the entire case. So how is this functional innovation embraced by global subculture? It doesn't read like a typical emerging underground trend, and I think you guys look all a bit too young, but I will take you back to a time long before certain trendsetters mixed a Rolex Submariner or Milgauss with their Avisu, Nike and Stussy. When sort of before luxury really, I mean we were like opera buffs, we spent all our money on going out. And what I feel was quite a difference, although I'd like to find out from you guys if this is the case, was that fashion then was kind of functional, where we had the baggy clothes to go raving in, and we had the bum bag to put our tiger balm in, and we had high drop trainers with ankle protection to dance all night, and an Unbreakable watch from G-Shock, and it was the sort of ideal for the functional style of the rave and adventure sports era. I think G-Shock enabled and represented as a new form of cultural wealth that was the status signifier of the time. Now, G-Shock's maxim was live life to the full, and this extended to the expanding field of adventure or extreme, as we used to call them, sports. You guys do a bit of that as well, don't you? The obvious example being snowboarding, but cable TV coverage and sponsorship had legitimised skateboarding and surfing, and consumer choices shifted to suit a rich life, where vocation, culture, activity and community existed alongside each other. Now I read on the No Source website that Carl Cox used to use his G-Shock to measure BPMs. If anyone can tell me at the end how he did that, I'll give you a prize. And I think later in the 90s, early 2000s, you had sort of Tom Ford and Gucci and conglomerates bringing luxury back. But I think we see the unbreakable and enduring legacy of G-Shock in contemporary luxury sports watches. In 2003, IWC released their Jacques Cousteau Aquatime, which was the first luxury sports watch. And I don't think they'd have done that if it hadn't been for G-Shock's legacy, especially the way G-Shock had been adapted by exactly the sort of audience that luxury brands like to court. And now we have that weird freeway that came out the other day. I can't find it in my notes. Anyway, luxury became more evident in rarity and scarcity. And likewise, I don't think we'd have witnessed the hipster vintage digital watch trend without G-Shock's credibility. It's now the crucible of innovation at Casio. In fact, some people say Casio is part of G-Shock. But I can say you guys, of course, not. And it's the crucible of innovation, developing new technologies for timepieces that match the standards set by Haute Horologie, like the 2018 Rangeman with the world's first solar-assisted GPS navigation, and interestingly, the rounded lifestyle that adopted G-Shock as its talisman in my youth is becoming apparent again right now in diverse subcultures ranging from MMA and BJJ to urban art, streetwear entrepreneurialism, environmental activism, and adventure travel. I've left it upstairs, but everything harder than ever before, the 2024 Jenny Valentine book about healthy extreme challenges and lifestyles, I think sums that up. I'm especially struck by the variety of enthusiastic wearers. Under G-Shock Collector posts on social media right now, there are plaudits from musicians, mountain bikers, and US Air Force bomber crew members for whom G-Shock is standard issue. The unbreakable legacy of absolute toughness continues partly because it's so aligned with its audience, such as these two gentlemen here. The media tell me young people are awkward and nervous, but I see them wearing clothes for adventurous lifestyles, and the young I know bowl me over with their social skills, enthusiasm, and capability. Like G-Shock, they appear built different, an evolution of what's gone before. Let's talk about that legacy now. What does unbreakable mean in 2025? Both in terms of attitude and timepiece.
Yeah, I'll start off with the
Thank you,
mic. Hello everyone. Unbreakable, I think nowadays is all about resilience. I think it's just as meaningful now as it was back then. I'm thinking adapting that to today's society. I think it's so quick to get everyone's opinion, good or bad. Various social media outlets, etc. But not letting anyone knock you off your perch if you've got a goal in mind, whatever you want to achieve. I think being unbreakable is just keeping that flow, keeping directing, what your goals are, and just sticking to it. And as I say, not letting anyone knock you off your perch really. So yeah, that's what I'd say. I'll pass it over to Jeff.
Hey guys, nice to meet you all. I think unbreakable for me is doing things with intention. Like Andrew just said, if you get knocked down, you've got to get up again, you've got to dust off your shoulder and keep moving. And if we're talking about watches, I've been wearing Casio for as long as I remember. I was obsessed with ABGs and they were for the ladies. And then when I realized, there's a men's version of what we call G-Shock now, it just stood the test of time. I've got watches that I've had since I was 15 and they still work today and I'm 34. So it's the proof is in the pudding. It's just keep going no matter what you're doing. If you fall, get up again. If you fail, learn.
Thank you guys, that was very, very trenchant. Which G-Shocks have you got on tonight?
So I'll start. I've got the Bape GM 6900 30th anniversary that released in 2023. Same time I turned 30, so that worked quite nicely. Again, as I've mentioned on my YouTube channel and other panel talks I've done for G-Shock, I love matching them to my trainers. So yeah, similar sort of vibe, really nicely ties in well. My man next to me, Jeffrey, has way more trainers than me though, so yeah, I'll pass to you to.
Today I'm wearing the 25th anniversary DW 5000.
Ooh.
So this one's from 2008. The watch is as old as some of my shoes, if not, it stood the test of time compared to some of my trainers actually. I've got Air Maxes that were falling apart. Dwayne would know. From 2008, air bubbles cracking and stuff, but the G-Shock's still standing. Yeah, it's a very sentimental watch, and actually it was given to me by a really good friend of mine. I never bought it at the time, and then when he stopped wearing G-Shocks, he gave it to me.
Marvellous. And that, I mean, there's a lot of history there. How has the G-Shock sort of managed to stay relevant over, it's a long time, 40 plus years? While at the same time, not shifting from those core values.
It's timeless. It's a timeless design. I think if you look back over the decades, as so well exhibited here, you've got the classic square, the 5000, that is still looks just as good today as it did back then. My personal favourite is the 6900, and again that was born in 1995. So celebrating its 30th anniversary again, but it's just, I think, stands the test of time because they look just as good now, and obviously they've been adapted in designs and colourways, etc., new features. But I think, yeah, the younger generations are seeing them, thinking they look just as cool as just find them just as cool as their dads would find them. So I think that's what it is.
I think a solid foundation of worrying about your own business and getting carried away by trends and stuff is what really helps G-Shock stay relevant over the times. If you look at any major watchmakers in the world, they all have their unique perspective, unique engineering, unique kind of research and development. And G-Shock wanted to make an unbreakable watch. There's not many watches or brands you can say can do the same thing. I've even rolled my watch under a car tire to prove a point. I've thrown it across the park when I used to roller skate, jumped off walls, bouldering, and hit it against the walls, and it gets scratched up, but it don't break.
Do you think they look better at big scratch?
Yeah.
I mean, you wouldn't want every single one that you got to be a big scratch, but I quite like you when they look a bit big.
I mean, it's subjective,
Like distress.
I mean, it builds character, You scuff your shoes, I personally clean them, some people like them dirty. Watches you wear over time, the resin on this is so old now it's no longer glossy, but at the same time, I can't really find another watch strap that matches the way the watch is yellowed either. So there's an actual patina to it too.
Oh, right, yeah.
So this used to be charcoal grey, now it's yellow.
Smart.
Oxidized.
Smart. And what is the one sort of innovation or moment that you think is key to the whole legacy? And it can be a personal choice, it doesn't have to be definitive.
I think going back to the very start, obviously the floating module, the rubber ball, the experiment that obviously founded the G-Shock story, overall. But more recently, the development of technology and innovation in the design as well. I think it's a really cool few releases lately where there's no individual bezel and band; they sort of meet at the 9 and 3 o'clock position. So yeah, that's a cool bit of innovation. And again, it's just something different. I think a lot of people describe watches as conversation starters, and I think G-Shock just captured that perfectly. Like whether it's a bold colorway or just purely the design, every single design you can automatically tell is a G-Shock from 6, 10, 15 feet away. So yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just the DNA of design, really. For me, it's just whether it's a round shape, whether it's a square face, whether it's a hexagon. There's always something very evident about the way they use resin. Resin itself is such a durable material. It may oxidize, it may age over time, but if you look after it, it'll live with you.
I was always used, because I'm like 90s boy, I was always used to the round, was that the 6,000?
69.
Yeah, 69. And I remember I was a senior editor of Arena Home Plus at the time, and I was in a club, and obviously the lights were low, I couldn't see very well. And I noticed the chap next to me was wearing a great watch. I said, mate, that's a nice watch. And he said, oh, it's a G-Shock. It's the first one they did, the 5,600 in the 80s. And I was like, mate, it looks fucking lit. And it did. So G-Shock's been embraced by a lot of different scenes, like skate to hip-hop to fashion. I was very pleased to see the Royal Navy at number 5 in the collaborations most sought after chart, one above NASA. Yeah. Why do you think sort of subcultures gravitate towards it? And because it's almost sort of effortless, isn't it? There's a sort of lack of neurosis or awkwardness to all these collaborations, and then they sort of come out so well, most of them.
I just think, generally speaking, you don't really get loads of digital watches that look timeless. You know, there's either ones that look too futuristic or look like they're going to become past time very soon. But you know, Casio has always done a really good job of sticking to the core of what they want their DNA to be. So, in my opinion, I think it's Unbreakable is probably the baseline of it, and then the way it's designed is timeless. So I think that's why it's always stood the test of time.
And of course, the new one just uses shape and form, geometry to be sort of more unbreakable. I don't know if you've seen the groovy one with the stud, but rather than technology or metallurgy.
Yeah, definitely.
Andrew, what do you think is why do you think subculture and G-Shock get lost so well?
Yeah, no, I think it does, and I think for me, I got into G-Shocks from the hip hop scene of the sort of mid 2000s, sort of teenage years, the likes of Pharrell, Lil Wayne, Kid Cudi, etc.
God, you look at
Yeah, similar sort of thing. But yeah, and that was very much a sort of era where it was like popping yellow trainers, yellow G-Shock, yellow T-shirt, yellow hat, maybe even yellow earrings if you're feeling punchy. So yeah, that's how I got into the brand originally. But again, you go to a skate park and everyone's wearing G-Shocks there, and it's just almost two worlds that wouldn't normally colliding. And you know, again, conversation starters, middle ground, all that good stuff. So yeah, I think it just captured it perfectly. And whether it's functionality, obviously if you're falling off a skateboard, you need something that's going to be a bit robust. And then equally, if you want to keep it crisp and clean to match your trainers, equally as crisp and clean, I think again they've got something for that as well. So I think that's how they've just nailed it across all subcultures.
Can you guys each share a personal story? It doesn't have to involve a club and a 5,600. Or memory where G-Shock kind of meant something specific in your scene or community. Like I turned on video of you inspecting trainers and you were talking very interestingly about bouldering.
I guess I transcended quite a bit. So Mikey and I have known each other for like 12, 13 years, maybe longer now. We used to like camp out for trainers like the Air Yeezy 1 and stuff like that, and we were wearing G-Shocks then because like Kanye, Kid Cudi, they all had like the crazy coloured 6900s back in the day. And you get one, you want another. You get one, you want another. And then I think like now that I'm 34, so when I first started collecting, I guess I was like 16, 17, when I started making money, I realized, you know, actually, if I look after them, I can still wear them. And I run now, I boulder, and I still wear them. I've actually stayed away from smartwatches for that reason. I was like, if I get an Apple Watch, all my watches are redundant. And I was like, I also don't need another screen on my wrist telling me that I've got an Instagram notification or somebody's calling me. Like sometimes it's good to disconnect. And I think my age group, like both Andrew and I, we're kind of middle childs now in this kind of generation where I feel like we've experienced analog life, and we've also experienced how digital has grown. And I think there's like a subtle appreciation for when Game Boys were still black and white, you know, when PlayStation 1s were still grey, you know, when things were still pixelated. And, you know, I feel like the G-Shock for me is kind of keeping me grounded, never forgetting where I came from. And, you know, when I go bouldering and stuff, I can scratch them up and I'll be like, at least I got another one. Or I can change the resin if it gets too beaten up. So it's the adaptability and versatility of the watch that stood the test of time. I know I've said that quite a lot today, but it's the reason why I still wear it till today.
I remember interviewing Peter Saville, the graphic designer, you know, who did sort of factory records on the Joy Division New Order, covers, etc. And he said these days it's so easy to just open a magazine and just buy the look from the magazine or whatever. And if you walk into the room wearing, looking like some guy out of, well, Wallpaper it was at the time, you just look like a dick. because you just bought it out of a magazine, and you've got it. You need personal style and personal history these days. What do you think makes a decent collaboration? I know that people come from every different angle. Kid Cudi took a very different angle to the Raw Name. But where, I mean, again, this can be a personal thing.
So yeah, I think obviously many of us know G-Shock are the king of collaborators, and I think what makes a really, really good collaboration is when it's a proper crossover, not just a little few like tweaks here and there. Using this watch as an example, if you're familiar with the brand bait, you can see from a long way away that there's the infamous, the bait pattern, as well as you can tell it's a G-Shock, therefore to pair together nicely. Going back to your Royal Navy comment though, I've also got family affiliation there. Loved the Frogman that they released a few years ago, where it was like real battleship grey and navy colourway, which was clear again that there was something a bit different about that one. And again, it was a really, really cool watch. So yeah, I think when it's a true crossover, not just like two brands going, oh yeah, we should probably do something together. It's a real, this is my idea, let's bring it together and make it so clear. That wasn't meant to rhyme, but it sounded quite good, didn't it?
No, I think Andrew hit it nail on the head. It's a good collaboration comes from authenticity. If two brands synergize and actually meet at a point where they can both agree on authenticity, quality, storytelling, it's really, really hard to miss. And in the world of fashion and in the world of consumerism, there's always these forced collabs that just don't make sense. And I feel like with G-Shock's long-standing history, they really know how to pick as and when and who they work with. So you can't miss, whether it's hip hop, they know where they're relevant. Whether it's artists, graffiti artists, whether it's musicians, whether it's sports people, you've got these different synergies from different perspectives that come together to provide a new version of something that already exists.
I think this is it. Whether it's the military or whether it's a rapper, they still manage to do something quite distinctive with the brief. And Helmut Newton, the fashion photographer, does all the black and white pictures of Amazonian women in suspenders around the corner from his house. He says that all the best work, it is from around the corner. He says all the best work he's done is the stuff with a really savage brief that when it turns up, he's like, oh God, oh no, I never expressed my creativity here. But I think starting with such a solid platform, with such definitive parameters, it is actually, conversely, how people can be so creative here. You mentioned authenticity and any sort of dream collaborations that you'd love to see.
I'd like to do a G-Shock.
Nice.
It's just my own G-Shock. I'd like to see, I don't know, I think it'd be cool to see actually some car makers, like maybe Mercedes-Benz and Casio and stuff like that, because I know we've done stuff like that with AMG. I think it'd be cool to kind of put that kind of engineering in place and see how they could replicate or interpret what they do. Building a working car in itself takes a lot of tech, a lot of research and development and growth, so I think that'd be a really cool perspective.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
I'm going to say the same as Jeffrey. I'd like to see a personal collab with Time Drops, of course. But no, I think the one that sprung to mind, which wasn't necessarily on my 2025 bingo card, was Crocs. But that's it. I mean, I'm a dad, so naturally, as soon as I became a dad, I fell in love with Crocs as well. And I always thought, oh, that'd be quite a cool crossover. I've got some for every season. And then, yeah, it was almost a few months ago when they obviously announced it. Again, another proper crossover where you can dismantle the bezel and put it alongside your Crocs. Very cool collab. So yeah, it was a cool one. But yeah, similar sort of thing. I think automotive, maybe more in the sport world. I've got a love for football, but I know that when you limit yourself to one team, for example, you're ruling out a lot of others. So yeah, I think they've smashed it already this year. And as I say, there's a lot of collabs I almost would have loved to see have been done, already. So it's great, and I guess more of those.
Nice choices, better than mine. I have the French Foreign Legion. And obviously there is no acronym / else and who G-Shock, right? I mean, how many calls have been put in there? I wonder.
Yeah,
Running away. So, I mean, looking ahead, no, actually, no, hang on. Cultural shift moments. How has the kind of G-Shock story evolved? Or kind of, has it stayed, reasonably solid?
I think it's evolved by staying the same, to be honest. I think, again, it's...
Yeah, response to audience.
Yeah, I think, again, the younger generation has seen a lot of the more loud, I guess, the loud designs, the newer ones, etc. I think that they're obviously spotting, falling in love with, but it's also one that they'll go home and their dad will go, "Oh, you used to have a G-Shock, I'm happy to buy you one myself." So I think again, there's obviously been innovation there, but timeless design is just key, and I think sticking to that will only continue to grow. I mean, it's been over 40 years already. I think they're doing all right. So yeah, that's what I'd say.
So from the brand, Super Insider angle, how do you think at all of the brand story is? The brand story for G-Shock, has it kind of shifted much over the years, or is it a bit constant?
I think it's just been constant, to be fair. Like, honestly, it's just always been constant. Like, it's the times that evolve around G-Shock. Like, for example, the comeback of the Crazy Color 6900, that was my prime teenage years, and they brought it back. And and it's cool again to wear. Yeah, it did work because it's cool again. Actually, I think if you've noticed, we're in a generation now where trends don't really matter anymore. Like, you can wear what you want, express who you are.
I love how you only have 215 Instagram followers, all of you. So cool.
Yeah, I mean, like, to be fair, it's cool to be original, to be yourself, to be authentic. And G-Shock's always done that. And even with like the GA 2100, you look at it, you wouldn't even think it was like a naughty watch. It looks like it's been designed from when they've done digital and analog hand watches, and again, it's embraced. I don't know, the nickname for that was, am I allowed to say the nickname? Yeah, it's not close to that. Don't record this, but basically when it was called the Casio, everybody wanted the AP roll up. And man, like, everybody wanted it to the point where they were like trimming down the production of it, and then G-Shock comes out with it. And then you had, I'm sure I saw 2-3 years of consistent like mods making it look like an AP. And then G-Shock comes out with a full metal one, just shut everybody down. It's like, I think what they do is always very tasteful, but they won't do it in a rush because they want to get it right. And I think that's just across the board with all models. Now you see full metal 56s, 69s, GAs, and it's like, you look at it, it doesn't look tacky. Sometimes people do things that want to look more luxurious and then end up making it look cheap. They've done it their way, where it still looks timeless, still looks amazing, and actually, I want one.
Yeah, I mean, sort of engineering first, and that kind of comes through the design. Yeah. How would a brand like G-Shock sort of cut through the noise that you've just kind of referred to with the endless collaborations, firing in every direction? And
no, it's a good question. I think what G-Shock do really well as well, which I wanted to add earlier, was they really do listen to their customer base.
Interesting question.
Yeah. No, exactly. I think they do. I think there's a lot of feedback, various platforms, obviously reviews, etc., where people in the comments or within the review are calling out for certain things, and you can really tell that G-Shock see that and respond. As you mentioned, the full metal Casios, the full metal squares, etc., look so good, and then it might be like, well, I like this colour, maybe with a positive display or something like that, and those tweaks are being done while still maintaining that original design, obviously the shock resistant structure. And again, I think just going back to my point of they're innovating by staying the same in some regard, where they don't need to change names. I think a lot of watch brands do, and they try, and they're not so recognisable. You might see a watch model and not instantly know what brand it is, but with a G-Shock of any kind, I think you straight away know, and that's what they've nailed.
There's no compromise just to kind of gain a few new customers at the expense of
Exactly.
And sort of physical spaces. How important are they these days?
I think this is something that I've always loved about G-Shock, that they've always had a store you can go in and let the watches do the talking. You can feel it, you can try it, you can wear it.
It's kind of essential.
It honestly, like, I think with time wear, generally speaking, if you just click and buy online, like those fast fashion brands or whatever is coming up, like watches, you don't really know what to buy. You know, even when I walked into the G-Shock store on the corner of Carnaby Street before it became size, that was when I bought my Spike Lee. You know, I walked in, I looked at that, stared at it, came back week after week until I could afford it, and I bought it. But like, I knew I wanted that watch because you pick it up, you think it's a plastic watch, it's gonna be light, it's heavy as hell. This watch is heavy, like it doesn't feel cheap. And the thing is like, the only way you can cut through all the noise and like carry on guaranteeing the quality of it, like you can have a watch that's 30 years old, walk into G-Shock now, and they'll give you full service on it. You know, they don't outdate you. You know, they don't forget you like an iOS.
Louis Vuitton in the back.
Well, bro, like, you know, how many iPhones are redundant now because you can't make the latest iOS? You know, it's just like they want you to keep spending money. G-Shock want you to keep your thing for as long as possible. You know, and I think that in real life experience, that touching, that feeling, is something that we've missed quite a lot coming out of COVID. You know, like e-com and like DTC with like loads of brands now. Yeah, of course it makes money because it goes global. But back in the day, before social media was such a big thing, you'd have to go know somebody in Japan or know somebody in Asia to go find you something that's exclusive to Japan, to the US. And that was the fun of it. You know, trainers, watches, clothes. You know, before there was wide, big retailers like N Clothing and Size and all these places, there was one place in London that you could get full steer. And Hideout was funneling all these like niche brands like Double Taps, Neighborhood, you know, Supreme. All of these things were not widely available. Ecom was not widely available. And now it's a beast. Now it's a beast of its own, and you know what? Like brick and mortar is still so important. Even if it's seen as just a marketing vehicle, it's still so important because people want to experience things again. And I think like the detachment from being locked in your house for 3 years has woken a lot of people up.
I think up north they'll still go into Newcastle, you know, on a Saturday in their gear. What do the next generation of G-Shock fans actually care about? You know, what is up next after all these wonderful Japanese indie skatewear collaborations and the Range Man and all of these?
I think Jeffrey captured it perfectly earlier. I think it's more accepted now to be individual than it was, you know, when, not that it wasn't when we were growing up, but it's more, it's cool to be your own person. And I think G-Shock gives that individuality that allows that personality to shine through. And I think that's what the younger generation are looking for. Plus, of course, value for money. You know, obviously, as you're getting into your first, you know, job and things like that. For me personally, same as, you know, chatting with Jeffrey earlier, coming up in the same sort of era, it was like, I remember my first job as a waiter getting paid absolute beans, but the moment I worked out that I could buy a G-Shock was just mental. So, yeah, I think it's just really having something to express yourself is key for the younger generation, and again, something that will last. We're seeing a lot of G-Shocks recently have a 10-year battery life. Speaking for my own collection, that have in air quotes a 2 or 3 year battery life and have lasted 10 or 15 years. It will no doubt last a lot longer than that. So yeah, I think they're doing a great job. And again, the collaborations are coming thick and fast. So the likes of Sench, for example, you know, it's a perfect person, absolute superstar to have as an ambassador. So yeah.
Yeah, I think the implementation of new technology as well, you know, like Tough Solar has been around for a long time. The self-charging, recharging watch. I have an A-Life G-Shock that I forgot about. Pulled it out 10 years later, left it in the sun and turned on again. You know, like that's an amazing feeling. Like, and this watch, I think I've only changed the battery once since 2008.
And then battery changing is easy. Yeah.
It is actually really easy. If you want to follow a YouTube video that's available now, you know, you can just buy something to recoat the rubber seal as well if you want to make sure it's still waterproof.
So you do it yourself with the
Yeah, I've got a little sponge paddy thing where I dip the thing. Before I used to come to G-Shock and then One day,
Little velvet.
yeah, well, one day Jan said to me, he was like, "Bro, you can just buy the kit and do it at home, and you don't have to wait 4 weeks." And I was like, "All right, cool."
There's Jason Mark. Well,
Oh, man, you know what? It was. I've seen my watches with Jason Mark actually. Funnily enough, yeah, but yeah, man. But yeah, I think that's just the way they're built, you know? Yeah.
and if you guys had to define one word for G-Shock outside of Unbreakable, you're not allowed Unbreakable. What's it gonna be?
Timeless.
Iconic is what I'd say, or just a pure vibe. I think they resonate with everyone, all ages, all different backgrounds, personalities, styles, etc. So yeah, a vibe.
Well, I like. Admittedly, I'm studying psychology at the moment, but resilience is a buzzword with psychologists that not only implies a dependable present, but a storied past and an optimistic future too. Guys, thank you so much. Please give us a big hand. Thank you for work. 3 hours to the base of mine. And time drops. Guys, I'm going to give you one and I just put it.
If you're not in the G-Shock, you should get one. Just say it, innit? It won't fail you. You'll fail it.
Andrew, tell them about your YouTube.
Yeah. If you want to go watch our YouTube, time drops. We release all of the latest news, reviews, all the best deals, all the good stuff about watches, especially G-Shock. So yeah, go check us out. But yeah, go down to the Carnival store, go enjoy the event. Yeah, have a wicked night.
My name was Stephen Langsford, feeling like we spent this. Thank you ever so much, people. Have a wonderful time this evening.